Thank you so much. We got Roqy Tyraid in the place to be.
Yo, what's going on?
Thank you, brother. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come on the show, to talk about your career, to talk about your incredible flow, your catalog. Also, you know, we want to get into some of the things you've got going on outside of music, activism and different things that matter to you. So just for folks who may or may not know or are, you know, learning about you through this show, Roqy Tyraid is an amazing hip hop artist that came out with his debut album. I believe it was in about 2015. He's released 4 full-length projects plus numerous mixtapes. He's got singles that have taken over the internet at times. In addition to his music, he has become very active in community activism. So we're going to get into all that. I always like to start by kind of going back and then working our way forward. So yeah. I'd love to hear about, you know, your musical journey, how you first got involved in music, all of that.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, music is just something that's been a part of my life since I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, product of, you know, Clear Channel and Viacom, having access to all sorts of music on the radio, all sorts of music on TV. And, you know, like hip hop is really just something that's been like its development in terms of it being modernized was like kind of parallel to my own growth and like coming of age as an individual. So, you know, like even before the 8 Mile stuff kicked off and people wanted to be like a battle rapper and all that type of stuff, we used to freestyle battle at high schools. And, you know, like our school had a collective of people who were battling the next like school of collection of kids and stuff like that. We show up to parties and freestyle battle, you know, we get at the other person's girl and all sorts of just being young in the moment sort of deals. And then like, you know, just kind of writing music and just kind of doing it from like a playful standard. Like people were like, you know, you should make your own music. And I did it and it felt natural. And then that basically became, you know, the story of my life. I've been doing it for like half of my life at this point. So
yeah. That's cool. I think freestyle rapping opened the door for so many hip hop artists that's how they started. When you first started doing music, you're based in Phoenix now, right?
Yes, in Phoenix by way of Southern California.
Yeah. So when you were going to high school, were you in LA?
I was in the LA area, yeah. I went to school in the Valley and whatnot.
Cool. So then it was like when you were in high school in LA, that's when you guys had like the different battles and all.
I'm gonna say Valley because you know, like the LA folks will be like, oh no, you're not from, you know, so
you're not from town.
School in San Diego and out in the Valley, and then I found my way out here. So you know, it's very much shaped me creatively. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, that's cool. Where's Freestyle Fellowship from? Aren't they from LA?
They're from LA.
Yeah, so LA has been heavy on freestyle for decades.
Yeah, you know, like I know it's like a controversial statement, but you know, Southern California, LA specifically, you know, you have some of the best lyricists in the culture. You know, and it's been that for generations at this point. You know, like there's a certain type of spirit or essence or conviction that comes from West Coast lyricism that you don't necessarily find in other areas. And that's not to knock, you know, the penmanship of people who come out of other regions or whatnot, but we have this certain type of like essence or funk to it, and like that certain type of deep down countercultural expression that you can find in the type of hip hop that's from out west. Yeah. So shout out to freestyle. Yeah. So
shout outs to Freestyle Fellowship, man. They don't get enough, you know, they don't get enough. They need like they need a statue. You know what I mean? For
LA hip hop. I didn't get a chance to check, but the homie Medusa was out here at Trill over in Phoenix for Trill's anniversary and everything. So big up the Gangsta Goddess, Medusa and everything.
Yeah, that's dope, man. So you start freestyling in high school, and then at what point do you start recording?
Around that same time, you know, it was one of those sort of deals where like it was the extracurricular activity. You know, we're getting into other activities and stuff like that. And
there were other extracurricular activities.
There's other things, and you know, music was a way to. It was like how people talk about how breakdancing was good for kids in the 80s and stuff like that. That's how rapping was for me and for you know, some of my closest and stuff like that. So I started recording around that time. You know, we're almost on the 20th anniversary of me like making my first song.
Yeah.
And once I found out that I could do that, then there was nothing that anyone could tell me. Like, that's what I wanted my life to be. And, you know, from doing that to coming out to Phoenix and finding myself to concurrently like being out in the IE at the same time on my man 60 East and Space Ghost, DJ Metric, my man Sank, you know what I'm saying, my dude Rock, of course my man Black. Like it was you know, it was kind of like the foundation of me growing and finding myself and eventually becoming Roqy Tyraid, the artist that you know, people know today. So
yeah, that's I think that's a good kind of segue into the name Roqy Tyraid. Can you give us like some background on how that came about?
Yeah, it feels very blog era-esque, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm being...
It's a dope name.
Thank you.
It's a dope name.
So I used to sell a lot of CDs out here. Well, I used to go by J-Rock when I first, you know, when I was a kid and during all the adventures I was just talking about earlier. I went by J-Rock, J-R-O-Q. And it was something that was kind of given to me because I was the youngest person in my group. And, you know, I just kind of stuck with it, you know. And I came out here selling CDs. So I broke into the Phoenix scene. We used to move thousands, and I'd be at your gas stations and malls and all that. So it like really became instinctive in how I talk. So I'm long-winded preface to say that J-Rock from the Beat Junkies, the world famous, the funky president himself, was doing a show over here, I think at Cherry Lounge. And, you know, I showed up and I introduced myself to him. And in the process, like I just accidentally went to my spiel and like try to sell, like get my CD as J-Rock to the real J-Rock. Like, he was cool. If anyone who knows him is like super like humble and all that type of stuff. So you didn't pay it any mind. And like, it embarrassed me, you know what I'm saying? And there's also this other cat from Watts coming up with the same name. So it's not like he would be a big rapper or anything, right? So I was telling my dude Chino XL, the legendary Chino XL, about this story. Since he's known me since I was like maybe 15 years old.
You've known Chino XL since you were about 15.
Yeah. His son is like one of my closest friends. Like I'm his son's godfather, you know?
Oh, that's dope. Shout out Chino XL.
Chino XL. So I was telling him the same story when he came out to do a show. We brought him out here, and then he was like, "Yo, son, you know, you got to change your name." And I tell him about how when I first came out here as J-Rock, you know, there was like this AZ California tension going on because there's a lot of transplants coming out at the time.
Got it.
And I would do shows at this spot called like the Rap Stock, and it's what it sounds like. It was a ton of rappers and like no spectators, or just all rappers basically. On stage and I'm performing and they're doing the too cool for school stuff. We're like folding our arms and not really paying attention, or like not paying attention, but like staring at you.
Yeah.
You know,
no
love. You know, and like me, you know, I'm an outlandish, outspoken person. So I broke into like a freestyle in the middle of my performance, and I just started like talking crap about the audience. And it became kind of like this thing, and I called it going on a tirade. And so I was telling Chino XL about this, and he was like, "Yo, son, you should keep the tirade." Me being a hard-headed, I'm like, I'm keeping the J name somehow, some way. I wanted to keep Roqy and Tyraid, and so it just kind of happened like that, like Roqy Tyraid, because you know, like my homie Sin, like Chino's son, like he would crack jokes about attach my name to things like that, like Rocky James Bond, so I was a crazy driver or something like that. And then so I was like Roqy Tyraid, it makes sense. And then like I kind of went back and like kind of created like this duality attached to it because, and I just, you know, softballed a segue on accident, but like, you know, it went from my content and my music is also like, it's very aggressive energy, like centered music. And then instinctively I end up talking about social justice stuff and things that I would survey out in the community and whatnot. And so that became kind of like the duality or dichotomy of me as a person, which is also why I named my album The Dichotomy of Roqy Tyraid.
Yeah.
You know, just playing into the different sides of me, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a cool story, man. That's so you basically got you in part largely got your name from Chino XL.
Yeah,
like you was a part of that.
For sure. Like
wow.
You know, yeah, he's definitely gone on stage and said that when I was there. You know what I'm saying?
That's dope, man. What
cool.
What an amazing cosign.
Yeah. You know, he's this, I can't even say he's no slouch, like jokingly. He's like really like someone who paved the way for the in-depth, complex lyricism that a lot of artists are known for. Like they can all trace their lineage to cats like Chino XL specifically.
Yeah.
So,
and also, you know, there's the lyrics, and you know, you do this a lot too. Your music's so dope, but it's not just the lyrics. It's not like just the words.
Yeah.
It's that delivery. I find that to be like a very LA thing, West Coast thing. I'm from DC, right? So like I know what that sound is like. I know what the boom bap sound is like. But everything from, we were talking about Freestyle Fellowship to, you know, the hieroglyphics to you know, the Far Side, these like kind of like the way emphasis is put in personality and things that are put into right in the middle of a rhyme. I mean, it's rhyming and then it goes all over the place. And you have a lot of that. And Chino kind of introduced me to a lot of that. Very complicated, a lot of personality in this flow.
Yeah.
It's cool, man.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
I don't, you know, there's a lot of artists, and it's not to discredit anyone who writes and does this type of lyricism, but there's like where people are too formulaic when it comes to like how they write. And it comes off like feeling mechanical and very scientific. You know, I always approach it like a conversation. And some people, like, oddly enough, have like started to describe what I do as kind of like a bebop jazz type of deal.
Yeah.
And then when I sat back and analyzed it, someone who loves people like Cannonball Adderley, I listen to that before every show I do. It makes sense. So it's like, some of y'all ask why I'm aloof. Nigga don't sacrifice his youth. Pitiful, rude. I really don't have a lot to lose. Cynical, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's turning your words into like an instrument.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then, you know, expressing yourself. It's really like having a conversation. So.
That's cool, man. The 2015 album, your debut album that we were just talking about, The Dichotomy of Roqy Tyraid.
Yeah.
Were you already in Phoenix when you released that?
Oh yeah, I've been out here half my life, man. I'm in my mid-30s, so I've been here. You know, Phoenix is very much how I describe myself as like I was born and raised in Southern California, but artistically, I'm from Phoenix. You know, so I had already been. I jumped in right as the blogosphere was dying. You know, so like my very first underground joint is this mixtape called The New Millennium Man, and that was maybe 2011, end of 2010, and that was like on all hip hop and all these crazy, you know, like websites and stuff like that. Shout out to Chuck Creekmer. But like my first like album was in 2015, and you know by that time I'd already like, you know, fashioned myself as like a Phoenician artist. You know, I've been doing festivals like your A3Cs and stuff like that, and you know, doing ad hoc stuff at Boom Bap, not Boom Bap, Brooklyn hip hop. You know, and just, you know, and then like the Wake Up Show that was prior to
like you're on the one of the theme songs.
Yeah. I'm on the that's really I like really, you have to really do some, you're like Nardwar.
I told you, man, I went through your entire discography.
It's crazy. I had
a dope morning of like just listening to Roqy Tyraid.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. So I am on the intro for that every Monday. But like the dichotomy, I was already out in Phoenix, and I was just like, you know, building myself as an artist out in the West. There wasn't a lot of lanes for lyricists like myself here. So inadvertently, we like really paved the road for, you know, MCs, lyricists to come after us in Phoenix, and to do that as someone who is not originally from here. Like I didn't go to high school out here. Like, it means a lot to me, because I adopted this, and to in turn be adopted by the scene and to help create a path for folks. It was great. And I feel like the dichotomy was able to help do that as well, especially with like the momentum that it had in like the college circuits and stuff like that.
That's dope, man. Yeah, you've got, you know, like I wrote down some standout tracks that I liked a lot. You had Hey You, which is a cool like driving song, probably a really dope performing song too, because of the beat.
Crazy. I literally wrote that in the car. I was driving up the 51 freeway, and like the beat was up, and this was kind of Clockwork, and it was crazy. Like I just started like, hey, you, so now, I started like putting, it just started coming together.
Yeah.
So I'm literally rapping about me being on the 51 freeway at that time here in Phoenix. So.
Yeah, anybody driving, if you put on Hey You off of the dichotomy of Roqy Tyraid, the first album. It's a dope track and it's so cool. I can just imagine. I listened to it here in the studio, but I can just imagine being in the car listening to it.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those, like, you know, don't get a speeding ticket type of record.
Yeah, don't get it. And then you had another track that I was really feeling because I like the bass line. Had like a funk vibe. It was called Too Cool.
Oh yeah.
Too Cool is a monster.
Hey, yeah.
Who produced that joint?
It's one man, Arza. Yeah. So that was great. That was great. And like a lot of that came from you know, just encountering different artists on my journey and stuff like that. You know, there's always been this weird, and I noticed this in politics too, like in activism, you know, those because you're in the business of like social currency is how a lot of these things take place. And I noticed as an MC, you know, the people who are closer to like the grassroots and frontline type of deals, you're more inclined to find folks who are like looking to step on the next person to get to the next pathway, as opposed to those who are already in the space where they feel comfort and, you know, they're not evoking some of the those traditional insecurities and stuff that you would find from, you know, artists in the indie realm. And so it's just more of me venting that, and, you know, people like fashioning themselves as something that's not authentic to who they are because they're trying to present themselves in a way that'll give them upward mobility.
So after the 2015 album, the next one that at least is on the streaming platforms is a joint from 2017 called "A LP Has No Name."
Yeah.
Is that like a collection of songs?
Yeah.
Is that stuff on mixtapes?
Yeah. From you know, that were on, you know, like I said, I came in during like the whole blog scene and all that type of stuff. So like things that got placed on these blogs that unfortunately, you know, either cease to exist or, you know, like they're on their final breaths and stuff. And I wanted to include that on this emerging technology, you know, these DSPs and all that type of stuff. So, you know, it kind of charts my growth throughout the years and some favorite songs I've loved performing, you know, like my own like version of like little cult hits with people. Like the one that I really like that's on there is Move with my man Megaran. Like that was fun. You know, that was right after I got back from doing like one of my first overseas tours, and, you know, I was in my bag, and, you know, I was just ready to let loose. So it was cool.
You got another joint on that's called on that album specifically is called Rhyme and Reason Coronation. That joint is so fire.
Yeah.
I added it. It's on my playlist now. I'm a forever rock to that joint.
Yeah. Yo, that's one of the things, like if any artists are listening right now, and I was thinking of reaching out to this one MC from out here in Phoenix and just telling him this advice. It's like, yo, do show intros. Like you see with the Wake Up Show stuff, like, like perpetually spinning, like every week, you know? There's an opportunity to, you know, plant a flag for this wonderful establishment that you're rapping on behalf of. You know, you're creating that relationship, and, you know, you get a chance to spaz on people. And like that, just here's like a tirade, little tidbit, I guess. Like everything that I've done has been like a battle record. So there's like 3 different people I was going at that time. I'm in a different wave right now. We're all positive focused and stuff, but it was also another way to like respond to, you know, that creative, that combative like spirit that is in that competitive spirit that's in MC. And what I was like, we're not gonna step on stage and battle. I'm gonna turn this into a show intro, and you're gonna hear this every Friday or every Monday or every Sunday whenever the show airs. So yeah, that's absolutely.
So the Rhyme and Reason Coronation, that's part of the show.
That's part of the show, Rhyme and Reason. That's out here in Phoenix, Arizona, by my man Matlocks, and by Ramses John, by Rock Knowledge, but like it was, you know, Bless, and you know, like it's great, you know.
Dope, man. Yeah. I was listening to that joint today. I was like, this joint is fire. So then you have the 2019 album called Outbreak. DJ Green Lantern was a part of that. But the actual Outbreak was like 6 months later, or 6 or 7 months later.
I mean,
you dropped that album July 2020 to 2019.
Yeah.
And then March, February, March 2020, the whole world shuts down. You predicted it.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish that worked with lottery tickets. But,
Yo, that's so crazy. I mean, did you ever think about that?
Yeah, a lot actually, because I ended up putting out the Rectified video, and we shot that right before the pandemic, and it was like this the movie with Denzel, where he was like in the desert and everything, and he was like the apostle type of dude. I forgot the name of it.
Eli, the Book of Eli.
Yeah, Eli, Book of Eli. Yeah. Thank you, the Book of Eli. So I shot it from a Book of Eli perspective. We went all throughout the desert. We had like little action sequences, and we did scouting, and it was fun. And then when it came time to roll out the video, we were like right in the beginning of the pandemic, and people are scared. This is
Sure.
And I'm like, I want to put this out to be facetious about something that was obviously globally impacting and all that type of stuff. So yeah, it was interesting. Like we just came up with with an idea that we thought was creative. Like we wanted this album, this mixtape, to spread throughout the industry in the way in which it does. So, like an epidemic, and you probably shouldn't play with important things like that. But all jokes aside, here we are. On the other side, that we got through it as a society. But yeah, the Outbreak mixtape was very much a point of pride. I grew up listening to DJ Green Lantern, and some of the most important moments in hip hop for me were because of things that were curated by DJ Green Lantern. So I mean, even with that mixtape, he was in the middle of being on tour with Nas and Mary J. Blige.
Wow.
So I sent him records, he would scratch it, he would send it back. And part of me, like, the 10-year-old who was like, in the 4th or 5th grade or whatever, is like, yo, Mary J. Blige and Nas are probably listening to my music right now. This is crazy. Playing this in the green room or something like that. Like, whether or not that did or didn't transpire, the fact that, this giant amongst other giants in DJing was like taking time out of his busy schedule on the road to work on my stuff. Like, that was like one of the biggest honors for me as an MC and as a person who loves his culture.
That's cool, man. What an amazing project. It's a dope record. It's a dope album.
Thank you.
And then the timing of it. I mean, so you're dope, and then you got it's co-signed by DJ Green Lantern. It's called Outbreak. Really cool creative idea behind you wanted to spread throughout the industry, but then it happens it drops like right before the pandemic.
Yeah, I didn't really feel comfortable pushing it like that, because I felt like obviously these things are coincidental, but there's people who are really losing their lives, and I'm very empathic person, you know what I'm saying? And it just felt weird pushing that. And by the time I kind of got over that hump, like spiritually, we were in the middle of like protests and all that type of stuff, and I took a break from leading as an MC. So I didn't really push that as I would have traditionally had we had not been in the middle of like a nightmare as a society, because big on names and big on numbers, and you don't play with certain things. I know what you mean. Music, always make more music.
Just make more music. And you're right, we're on the other side of it now. In 2022 you dropped Space Ghost Revenge.
Yes,
that's your most recent album. Can you tell us about that process?
Man, I had originally started doing that during 2020, 2021, during like the pandemic and everything. And I wanted, because I went through a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, even with the Outbreak album, it was because I just came back from overseas, and I had an interesting time over there. And I got back and I'm like, now what? Now I was just angry. And so I just took off on these beats. And like, that led to some pretty cool opportunities. And then right around the pandemic, I was working on my album, and it was originally called The Air Aberrant, which is like breath of fresh air and stuff like that.
Yeah.
New air. And, something happened that really jarred my career, and it's water under the bridge now, but like it left me very like angry and defeated. And I was thinking about how my brother Space Ghost was like in our group. He was the next one up. He was that guy. And we were putting all of our energy into his album, The Haunting and House on Haunted Hill, and, You know, he was out there working with like some really amazing legends in LA, and then he was, you know, he transitioned tragically. So I was thinking about how I'm really big on like how, you know, we help and carry each other's legacy. And I can't just quit because of what had happened to me during my ordeals in Hollywood and all that type of stuff. And so this is not just me pushing back, but I'm fighting on behalf of my brother, Space Ghost. And had he had been here and had he had not been pulled from this plane in the way in which he was, it would be an entirely different story, because he was definitely one of the most talented MCs I'd met. Wow. So like my album was dedicated to, you know, steamrolling these fools on behalf of my brother Space Ghost. So it's called Space Ghost Revenge.
That's dope, man. Thank you for that background. What a powerful project.
Thank you.
Victor Sweet's on that.
Yeah.
What an anthem that is, man. When
I
heard that song, I'm like, well, actually, that song, I mean, I listen to it often. In promoting this interview, like I was like, oh, I'm going. Yeah, this is gonna be, because you got so many dope tracks. I was like, this is gonna be the joint right here.
Shout out to my man Teddy, aka Silencer. I've been a fan of grime for years. You know, like it's just been something that I was just, you know, as someone who's outside of that culture, I just was always apprehensive about making that type of music.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm really big on, you know, people in American hip hop like coming in on some colonial stuff. And even though it's attached to the African diaspora, I still wanted to move with intention, purpose, and respect. So like it wasn't until the late 2010s that I started finally like playing with the idea of being, you know, like making grime and at least releasing it into the world, because I've done other things. But in terms of really leading on that and getting out that imposter syndrome took some time. And like, you know, I had a little bit of taste of it on like the Outbreak album. But what really did that was Tyraid Tuesday, and then of course Victor Sweet, and getting that stamp from my man Teddy, and then forging a good friendship off of records like that, and just being creative spirits. It's really inspired me to do other things, man, within that genre, and to be called by platforms like International Grime, like a grime artist from America, because of my output, which is limited compared to like a lot of these amazing legends. You know, I feel like I have to show and prove now. So, you know, it's beautiful. I love records like Victor Sweet because of that specifically. And it's a good opportunity to engage with the crowd when on stage.
Yeah. What, yeah. Who gonna bring out the champ? Who gonna bring out the champ? Come on.
I was just sitting there like, I don't know why I was thinking of that, because I thought of like the Victor Sweet from the movie Four Brothers. And I just always thought that it's probably one of my favorite villains.
Yeah. Because
he was so charismatic and just over the top and almost like cartoonish, like comical. And then like towards the end, when, you know, he's going to get snuffed and he was fighting out there on the frozen lake, he was like, which one of y'all punks going to do it? Who going to take on the champ? And it was one of those things where it was unintentionally dope.
Yeah.
You know, like it was kind of like, you know, he had his back against the wall, kind of like Training Days, you know, King Kong ain't got nothing on me. It was kind of one of those type of moments, and it just kind of flowed from there, and I wrote around it, and there we go.
So dope, man. You made it classic.
Thank you.
You made it classic, you know. So it's a good segue to Tyraid Tuesdays, because you mentioned it a little bit. Tell us, you know, tell the audience what Tyraid Tuesdays is.
I wanted to create like an editorial, you know, like I did something maybe back in 2011 called Roqy Tyraid at the Podium, a musical editorial. And I would do these freestyles like every Friday about what was going on in the news. And it was a really good lyrical exercise. It really helped me sharpen my skills. And it like gave people a platform that they can easily digest like world events and stuff from.
You would do this like a radio show, right?
Yeah, and I would freestyle, ask my man DJ John Blaze from out here in Phoenix. We would record that like every Thursday at like 6 in the morning. I would send it to Ramses John. He'd play it on Friday Night Flavors and Ready Set Radio and all that stuff. Yeah, so, you know, I've been asked about that by like supporters and people who like my music if I was going to do another version of that. And what up, Jamil? And during 2020, during the protests, like I said, I took a break from doing everything because it didn't feel like it was a time to be selfish.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, there are some people who would show up and shoot videos at the protests and make these little anthems, and they disappear, and they wouldn't really put in that hard work because, you know, it's just bigger than music.
Yeah.
Art imitates life, you feel me?
Yeah.
And maybe I should have been creative because that drained me, but nonetheless, you know, I had all this energy and this frustration by not like calling out certain things that are problematic at the time, certain orgs and certain, you know, people who are doing things that are really detrimental to what was going on. And then of course, like the overall political landscape that was taking place in this new battleground that's Arizona, specifically Phoenix and Maricopa County. And once I finally got away from like the main like time frame of like protests and stuff, it just started coming out, you know. And I started rapping about things that were taking place here, and you know, went on to like talk about in chronological order what was going on with like the protests and the political prosecutions, and, you know, create it in a way that's just like me giving y'all something direct without being over the top preachy and just barring y'all asses off, man. Like I just, you know, it's been a while since I rapped, and I wanted to show that, you know, I could get in the hyperbolic time chamber, you know, like Vegeta and them, and come out an ascended Super Saiyan 2, you know. So it was nice, you know, to talk about things that will now be, it's not part of our history politically.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Tirade Tuesdays has evolved a bit, because at first you were doing it like in the studio, like in the booth, and now you often have like well done videos, like actual kind of like music videos to go with it all.
Yeah. Especially that last one, which was with Teddy. Again, you know, the Victor Sweet and all that. I wanted to, for the number 10, I wanted to give them something solid. We were in the middle of something crazy. The war in the Ukraine had just kicked off. Our amazing legend Brittany Griner was in captivity. There is a lot of like pushback from, you know, some of the more dangerous conservative folks in the space. And I just felt like going in, man. You know, Teddy threw a quintessential grind beat, and I wanted to Tony Gwynn that one out the park, man. So it wasn't, I wanted to evolve from just being in the studio and, you know, put some elbow grease in this.
Yeah, it's dope, man. You make dope visuals. Like, you've got some dope videos out there.
Thank you.
When it comes to actually making a video for a song that you've written and recorded, and you want to create the visual aspect, the visual component to accompany it. To what extent do you play a role in that process? Is it normally you hook up with a director and it's like
storyboard everything? Yeah. I'm very hands-on with my videos and stuff like that. So stuff like Jim Kelly, I wrote out like the one where I'm in like I had my fro and I'm in the yellow, you know, martial arts suit and stuff like that. Like wrote out a storyboard for that. Obviously, Rectified with my man John the Colombian from Sound Vision. Spicy Foods for the Hey You video, with the stop motion capture that we did for that, as well as one of my first records, which is Woo-Sa. Yeah, I'm very much hands-on when it comes to that, you know, playing with you. One of my favorite ones is by which is the IMWAO, you know what I'm saying? So that was a great one. That was a great one as well.
So you'll have like the idea, or do you like storyboard it and then you go talk to the
director? And that was a vibe. Well, what happened?
Yeah, so when you're working on, you know, when you're coming up with ideas for your videos, how do you do that? Like, do you storyboard it, or do you just have it in your mind and you talk to
a little bit of both? I mean, I have to storyboard it for, you know, the director and stuff like that. But so yeah, I'm usually very, very hands-on. The only times I've really been kind of loose with it was with maybe like Vibe Good and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Vibe Good. We have another one that I've been sitting on for about almost a year, and I need to release that. Yeah. And it's for Tyraid Sama. So we shot that right around the time I was finishing the album and everything.
Okay.
I'm gonna deliver that to people very soon.
Yeah, so that kind of brings us into that next question I think people want to know. Do we got 2023 music coming out? What you got?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just did a really dope record, and maybe this will inspire this man to release it. But I just did a record with Mega Ran and Boldy James. So Ran, release it, please.
We'll make that the clip. We'll make that the clip that we do after that.
No, don't do that. No, not too much pressure, my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have that. I'm working on some stuff overseas, and I have a good body of work that we're putting some finishing touches on. So we're gonna have some 23 music as well, and just get back into the ring. Really excited.
Yeah. Do you have like projects going on overseas that are like separate from like your stuff, or that you're working with other people?
Oh man, we're in the same universe. So like I say that I'm collaborating with some folks overseas. I don't want to like put too much on that right now.
Yeah.
But it's been cool, and I've had a very good track record of collaborating with our family overseas. I have a really dope one with Sonny Jim, that was on his record with Pete Rock. So like that was ill, and I just look to continue collaborating with people across the hemispheres. So
that's dope, man. We touched on a lot about music.
Yeah.
I want to touch a little bit on everything you do in the community. I follow you on social media. You're always educating people. You're letting them know, like, this vote's going to happen, that this is what this means. It's important, for people to engage politically. So often people don't know. They don't know that these votes are happening. That's how so much stuff, that's how change can happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually take a lot of votes often. It's just, you just got to get the people to go and do it.
Yeah.
Right. And how did you get involved in that?
I think, it was directly from protesting. And with protesting, it's something I've been doing since 2011. But because of the circumstances that happened in 20, a lot more time. Once our protest, because we had protested from May all the way to around election time. And the numbers dwindled down over time throughout the summer because of a lot of systematic, undermining of our protests, and it's just the stuff that happens in traditional civil rights spaces and whatnot. But after all of that was said and done, because we were educating voters, we're educating people, and we're turning them into registered voters. We're educating people on like down ballot voting. We were pushing for once we started being picked off the streets, we were pushing for our charges to be dropped. And this is during protests. And after that was our protest community was undermined. We tried to push initiatives that would preemptively take care of these issues that we ended up protesting about. One of which was a first responder department that would take care of behavioral health calls, substance abuse, the in-house community, and a lot of victimless, nonviolent dispatches and things of that nature, because that's where a lot of police violence does stem from. And so because of that advocacy, I ended up being involved in like a lot of city council meetings and speaking with elected officials in order to advocate for this. And this, that imposter syndrome of like being in that space again had dwindled as well. And so I just became more so involved this time, developed and everything. And it went from me, telling people to vote to working directly with candidates, working directly with elected officials, working with the ACLU, to them joining the board, to them becoming the vice president of ACLU-AZ, to becoming the co-chair for the Black engagement community for the Maricopa Democratic Party. Like all of this is just like, you just trace the spider web. It was just one day, decided to step out on the street and protest, and everything else happened organically. I'm really big on like things like protests being more or less just what you pivot into change from that. From protesting is policy change. And we wanted to continue our work. Protesting is seasonal. How else do we help affect change than to become more directly involved in the process? Even if you don't run yourself, you can help affect change in myriad ways. So one of the things that I do right now, outside of being directly involved in some of the things that transpires in the community, is to get other people engaged as well. Especially people who look like us. I think that's very important. It's so much bigger than, without getting too long-winded, it's so much bigger than having one or two elected officials, you feel me? Like infrastructural change takes infrastructural involvement. So putting people in specific positions, or just getting them empowered and then putting and helping them go out to the community and create their own ecosystems, that's enough to affect change on a community level. And it all, again, started from stepping out in the street one specific night.
What a journey, man. What
It's been a blessing.
It's what's really interesting is that, and growing up hip hop, I've watched it go from, music where it was, you have people low income trying to figure out how to, do something, and they created hip hop, from stuff that was around.
Yeah.
And that's how it starts. And wherever you see adversity, whether it's, a place like Syria, right, or, the hood of the United States, like, people kind of lean towards hip hop to tell their stories.
Yeah.
What you know what I'm talking about? And what I've seen happen as hip hop's growing up is people like Shine go into politics in Belize. People like Do It All from Lords of the Underground go into politics in Jersey.
Do it all, man.
Yeah. And you're incredibly smart, incredibly articulate, and charismatic. Have you thought about that maybe in the future for yourself at any point in time?
Oh, man. Maybe in the future, I'm going to say future, I say that right now, I can be involved from behind the scenes and be just as effective, if not more effective, because that's one of especially after being involved in politics for about close to 2 years now, people always assume that, like, oh, you're going to be the next person to run. And I don't really see that in my cards right now.
Yeah.
I see helping empower a community and getting them politically educated, because, our stance is this, we're cynical, and it's justified, because we never seen politics benefit us in a sweeping way without taking from us. So it's like when you talk to people, especially when we're like doing GOTV, get out the vote, when we're canvassing, which means we're not knocking doors and talking about political processes. People are talking about how they're not registered to vote, how they don't feel that the political system shows up for them. And my response is yes, and it's because we never had the opportunity to actually see that infrastructural involvement. So when I would talk to people about like how, the corporate commissioner race relates to their life, or why it's important to pay attention to the school board race with everything that's taking place in society right now. You galvanize involvement by like pointing a direct connection to what's taking place in your race right now and how it's going to affect you immediately. And you see their eyes open up. You see that determination. You see that confidence that my vote does matter. And that's been one of the most empowering experiences that I've had, to where like I'd rather right now continue to do things like that, pull people in and show them that we can affect change from a numbers standpoint. And that's one of the reasons why I talk to people. If I want to put somebody on game about something today, if you could walk away with something new, it's what a precinct committee person is. And that is the opportunity to be involved in the party and to be politically empowered enough to affect change in your legislative district. And that is like a school district or anything like that. Like, it's based on specific areas in your city. And a lot of people didn't know what that was, that you can run for a position in those spaces and be a conduit between your political party and your community, or really backwards, your community and the political party, because the people power the party. And then you could do that on a county level. You can become a state committee person and do that from a state level. And teaching people like Black and brown folks about that, something that I just found out about a year and a half ago. When I found out, I was mad, personally, because I'm like, why are we being withheld, from this information? But empowering people with that knowledge, like, I'm about to have a meeting today with a bunch of folks who are looking to be involved and to become precinct committee people. And it's because, you teach them that, like, one ant can only move so much, but as a colony, you can shape the entire landscape. And that is political involvement to me, not just running for a ledge seat, not just running for a statewide seat or for somewhere in DC. Like, the foundation is the most impactful form of politics. And to be able to push people down that pathway, I'm happy doing that right now.
That's dope, man. So if somebody, listening to this wanted to find out how to get involved, where would you direct them to go?
if you live in Arizona, hit me up directly. You can Google search your legislative district. If you don't live in Arizona, find out your legislative district, find out your representatives, make sure you're registered to vote, become a precinct committee person in your area. I cannot stress that enough. I feel like if I want to cut myself off on here, I'm going to type it in the thing. Like, become a precinct committee person, Google it, show up to your legislative districts. I'm telling you, it is like very racially and from an age standpoint, like very homogenous. It needs to change.
It
doesn't
reflect
monochromatically white, and that needs to change. We need to be involved. And so for people who are looking to be interested in that, if you don't know, hit me up. I do this stuff for free. I'm happy to help you.
You're passionate about it, and that means that you're good at it, because that's how you have to be good at something. That's how you got so dope at rhyming. You loved it, you know. You love what you're doing. I can feel it. You know what I'm saying? I can feel it.
I do treat it the same way as I do, you know, writing, like with like activism and stuff like that. I've talked about it before, but that was like with protesting, because there's like, you know, you can compare speaking in front of people to rapping on stage, etc. There's correlations, but like I do treat it with the same side of my brain that I do with like with music, in terms of like being politically involved. It's creative ways to work around these pre-existing systems and to affect change in a way that's meaningful. So
oh man, I can't wait to follow your journey on this, because I think you're going to take it. I think it's going to keep going. That's amazing, and that's cool. To kind of, you know, as I start to rap, I always like to ask people some questions to kind of just give more context to the person that aren't necessarily about what you're known for, which is like your music and your activism. Do you have any book recommendations?
Any book recommendations? That's crazy. Yeah.
Because you read.
I mean, yeah, that's a good assumption. Thank you. Yeah, I do. The Four Agreements.
What a classic.
So that's a classic, and then I say from a political standpoint, you know, because messaging is important in this space, you know, especially if you want to get people like, you know, in line with being involved. So messaging is important. So I'd say don't buy that by Annette Shanker Osario. She's a very respected political. She is amazing. Like, if she did a TED Talk today, I would pay top dollar to go see that. I watch what she says like I watch a favorite rapper. She has a very amazing podcast as well. So I think those two. The first one for Mind, Body, and Soul with Four Agreements. The other one for the political side. And then for a musical side, I'd say my man Mega Ran's book, The Dream Master. You know, find out about a very important artist who did all but create a subgenre, because it was pre-existing, but he breathed life and fathered a subgenre of music that went on to affect hip-hop as a whole. It's very like cool and collected about it. I've witnessed some great things from that person, and I think the Dream Master book is an amazing book to discover like one of the trailblazers in hip-hop as a whole. So
thank you. I'm gonna check out that one, because I haven't checked that out. I could tell, you know, in talking to you, I'm like really into movies, and you give like a lot of movie examples. What are some like, you know, what are some movies that are like your top movies that, you know, if you had to save those movies, because all movies were gonna disappear, like what movies, you know, would be like maybe 3-4 movies that?
Damn, I would say from the stance of like, I like the first movie I can like really resonated with me is probably Malcolm X, which makes a lot of sense. We have the same birthday, so there you go.
Oh, okay.
And it's almost antithetical, right? Like, There Will Be Blood, but it's just crazy, because it's like, you know,
that movie though. That movie's shot in, you know, human nature and how they capture
ambition can be, it could be a hindrance or hubris, or form of hubris. So there's a lot of lessons in that. And then, you know, just from an imaginative standpoint, like I think Inception, you know, the concept of like your mind is this infinite space is pretty jazzy. I like it, man.
That movie
and
when that movie ends, you're kind of left.
I don't want truth. I'm gonna be sad, man. I feel like he's definitely in little purgatory or whatever. And I say musically, people expect me to say like Juice or something like that. I'm gonna say Age.
Which one?
Backstage. I used to watch Backstage.
Yeah.
Chronicled the
That
Rockefeller
tour. Yeah.
With
the Red Man.
Yeah. I used to watch that before every show that I did. You know, like if I had enough time during the day, I'm watching the entirety. If not, then I'm watching at least some of the most, the biggest highlight moments and stuff like that. So that's probably one of the illest hip hop movies that I can recommend.
Yeah, it's such a dope movie and kind of shows you like everything that they put into their shows.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I feel that like as someone who's struggled with like mental health and stuff over the years, like watching DMX perform and then like he would just like break down after a show, like I get that. I feel the exact same way. Like there's nothing to describe it. To see another human being experience those sort of things, it a lot that resonated with me a lot. You know what I'm saying? So like that movie is so powerful and so underrated.
Yeah, you'll make me go back and watch it. I haven't seen it, but I remember, and that's when X was at his top.
Yeah, man.
That's when he ruled the world. It's before Jay-Z took over. It's when X ruled. Yeah.
Like he was, you know, it was DMX, man. Like that guy was a force of nature. We're on the West Coast, and at that time, everybody was listening to West Coast music, and it was almost like a faux pas to not. So I was like always the black sheep that was listening to Hove and DMX and all that, and you know, not just a steady diet of, you know, giants like Corrupt and stuff like that, or Crooked. Giants, but you know, like I you know, listened to everything, and so DMX was that guy in 98, 99, 2000.
He really was. He really was. And this is a good segue to rap. I think especially when it's like a super lyricist like yourself, people are always interested in what your top 5 that are alive are.
That's gonna change. That's always gonna change. My answer 6 months ago would have been different from today. But I'm gonna give you artists that I appreciate, and it is in no order. You know what to do? I would say Busta Rhymes is one of them. Cause I never like I would put him, cause you know I just do like rapper overall. He's one of my most influential rappers. Yeah. But you know, and it's not because I know when people think of Busta, they think of like him doing the fast rap stuff from like the mid 20s to 2000s. But like, nah, he was the way in which he was just so unapologetically him. The only person who was in the same space was ODB. But you see, Black Thought, I mean, that's a given. Lupe, that's a given. I say Rock Marciano, man. He created a whole subgenre, bro. Yeah. I don't even debate that. Rock Marciano is so dope that how he raps, you can't do it without sounding like you're not trying. He's just so relaxed in his delivery, and it's very lyrical, but it's so relaxed, like he's having a conversation with you. Yeah. You know, Streets Bread is out of 750s. Like, it was just so like just bizarre bars, and it's just so dope and eloquently put together. Like, what do you even what's going on here? And
it's almost like he's almost like a Frank Sinatra, where he's doing it his way. Like I did it my way.
But it is exactly he is raps Frank Sinatra. Yeah. We're gonna do that. So I'd say Rock Marciano, Black Thought, you know, your Royces, your you know, I did say Lupe, Elzai. That's almost a sin I didn't say that off top. Shout out to the homie Elzai. Yeah, there's so many just amazing MCs.
There really are.
They're out there. Let's go to the east. Let's go all the way out east. Let's go out to the UK. I'll say like a P Money or a JME. JME reminds me of Rock Marciano because he does the same sort of thing where he's very lyrical, but he's just so confident in his delivery. He doesn't care about what he cares about what he says, and he's intentional, but he's just, you're not going to tell him it's whack. And because of that, it's super dope, you know? Yeah. JME is another really dope one who just like is just so confident in his writing that it's just upper class. Yeah. I can go on with this for days, man. Yeah. Homeboy Sandman. I should have named that first. Open Mike Eagle. But in those two specifically, like they're just so. Open Mike Eagles are very from the soul, melodic, like I almost said dark comedy, but that's a pun in itself because that's the name of his album. But he's just so cool, and and then Homeboy Sandman, he's one of those where like he again what he thinks is what he says, and it just he has a whole song about eating food, about canned goods, about doing your laundry. He has a song about doing your laundry. Like, what the hell? Like, and it's just ill, like that's the type of lyricism that I admire. Anybody can learn how to be a very technical sounding lyrical miracle rapper.
Yeah.
But something else when you like find that like that soul side of things and conviction with your technicality, and and with your execution. Like it's a marriage of everything, and people like them do that very well.
Yeah. It's always hard. It's always hard to just limit it to 5. But whenever I do it, I always do honorable mentions also, because there's so much talent out there. But people who love your music.
My whole list is an honorable mention, man.
That's right. The people who love your music and love your flow, I'm sure they're interested in those types of things. So that's really cool. I appreciate this time with you. I hope we could do it again at some point in time in the future. I wish you an amazing 2023. I can't wait till the new music drops. It's really dope to see everything that you're doing and everything that you're doing in the activism space. It was an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Here's mine. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for everyone who watched, jumped in, jumped out, stuck around. That means a lot. It's things like this that helps me keep going in both spaces. So I really appreciate the love, and I hope you have a wonderful week.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. I'll be with you soon.
All right, Steve.
Peace.